In this video, I'm going to show you how to create an invoice in QuickBooks Online and how to show that that invoice was paid, even if you only received partial payment. So I'll show you how to do all of that right now. So we'll go to the plus new button in the top left corner. Plus new, we click that and we want to say we're making a new invoice. So we'll click there. And now here we've got this invoice screen. Now yours might look different because they recently did an update. So your layout might be different, which that will be another video of the other layout. But this is how it's been for a while. And sometimes this can be a little bit easier to use. So if you're in the new layout in the top right corner, it'll say old layout. So if you like this version, you can click old layout to see what this looks like. Okay, so here we're in the invoice screen, and first we're just going to select who's the customer. If you don't have that person in the system yet, you can just click add new and enter their name. So we'll do that now. We'll add a new customer, and this will pop up on the side. Now you can put as much information as you want or as little information as you want. As long as there's just a name, that's all you need. But if you'd like to put their email, their address, you've got a lot of fields that you can enter in. If you want to put notes about this customer, you want to add an attachment, any payment terms, if that's something that you do with the customer. You can do a customer type. You can put any exemption details for taxes. If you have kind of like a balance, if you track a balance with your customers. So not everyone needs this. You probably don't need all this information, but if you're someone that does need it, it's there. But we'll just say all we need is their name and email. If you're actually wanting to send the invoice to them, if you want QuickBooks to directly email the invoice to them for you, then you'll have to have an email here. But if you're not planning on doing that, then just there's some name is all you really need. Okay, so we'll put that our customer is Tom Roberts. And we're not going to send it to him, but again, if you were, you could put their email. So we'll just save his name. Okay, so here now his name shows up in the top corner. If for some reason it's not showing right away, just give it a second. Sometimes the software just kind of lags. So if you just give it a minute or refresh it so that you'll see it. But we can leave this blank unless you're planning on sending it. This can be blank if you don't want an address to be there. All right, so here now we're going to do the invoice date. So the invoice date, we're going to put it today, but you can change that if you need to. You can type it in. All right, so you can change the date. What's nice is that it will automatically calculate the due date based on the terms that you set. Let's say that you don't want 30 days to be the due date. So you can change it to 60 days, 15 days, 10 days, or just due on receipt, that they are supposed to pay it when they get it. If you need something different, you can click add new, and you can say, maybe you want to say net 2, maybe it's 2 days that it's due, and all you need to do is just say the name that you want to call that. You want to call that choice, and then let them know how many days is this so they know how to calculate it. So it's going to be 2 days. You could change it so that it's always due by a certain day of the month. So it's not 30 days or 20 days. It's always the 30th of the month. So you have different options like that if you need to, but otherwise we'll just do it's due in 2 days. So notice the due date changed. I have it as net 2, so now it's due 2 days from that date. Okay, and also you'll notice that little link there. You can create recurring invoices if you need to. You can create the recurring invoices, but that's another topic, so we'll come back to that another time. But that is an option if you need it. All right, so now we're going to come down here to our first line of our invoice. So we're going to select the product or service that we're invoicing the customer for. And so we'll say that it's a design service that we're invoicing. All right, now you might be wondering, why does it say design twice? That's just because of the way that the list was created, that it's in the design category. So it's like a subcategory of design, but that's just how it is in this sample account. But it does not, you don't have to have it look like that. It could just say design for you, or whatever you're, needing to say. Or if you just did services, there's design services for design or hours. So whatever you have on this list, but that's another video if you need to customize what's on this list for your business and personalize it. That's another topic that's going to be in your products and services list in order to make this be exactly what you need. So we'll just say that this is what we need. It's design. All right, and then you can change the description. You can say that it is for 12 hours, or you can say what it was that you did of the design service, what you completed. So whatever description you want to put, any details that you want the customer to see or the client to see, then you can put it here. Now the quantity and rate, you don't have to fill this in if you don't want to, if you're just doing sort of like a flat rate, that it's not about a certain number of hours. It's not a certain rate, it's just a total amount, that maybe it's 3,000. So you can just type that right into the amount. So that's fine. But if you do need it to say a certain quantity or rate, then you can absolutely fill that in. So let's say it's 5 hours at 100 an hour, and notice that QuickBooks will calculate it for you. So that's nice. Another thing that saves time. So we'll multiply the quantity and rate and give you the total. Okay, so you can also check here if it is taxable, if it should have sales tax that goes with it. But this is a service, so we're going to leave that off. But if you needed to, you could just check that, and then you could do the settings that you need to down here. But it is not in our case. And you'll notice up here, the large 500, that's nice to just double check that the invoice total is what you want it to say. So I always like to double check up here, make sure that that is correct, that number is correct. And you notice that you have multiple lines. You can do, as many lines, you can have 10 lines on your invoice, or however many you need. So we only need one, so I'll just click the trash can. All right. And that second one is staying there, but that's fine. It's not going to stay there on the invoice that you send. It'll only show the rows that you actually filled in information. All right, and on the left side, you can put a message. You can say, make check payable to. You can put whatever information you need. You could say thank you, whatever you want to say. You can use these boxes. You can also attach something if you want to attach a contract, attach pictures of the work that you did. You can, attach any file, an image, a PDF, anything like that. So you can attach that here. You just click and select the file and it will be there. And then when you send it, then your customer or client, they will see it as well. Okay, so now let's jump over to the right side. And we'll see that the subtotal right now is 500. If you had sales tax, then it would be, all that information is here. If you're trying to put a discount, you could do that as well. But we don't need any of this right now. So we're just doing, it's just 500 for services and that's it. So the balance due to that customer is $500. Okay, and again, we'll just double check up here. It does say 500, that's what we want. So I always like to just double check over, make sure it looks good. It's what we're wanting to, what we want the customer to see. So we're done here. You can either click save right here. You click save and it saved it right here. Invoice is saved. But the other thing that you want to keep in mind is it stayed up. So if you're saying, no, I'm done, I want to save it and I want to go do something else in QuickBooks now, you can come over to the green button, but be very careful because notice it says save and send. So if you don't want, if let's say you have the email here, but you don't want to actually send it, then don't click this button. So this will actually save and send. They do give you a warning. So if accidentally you click it, there will be a pop-up warning just to make sure that you really do want to send it. But what we want to do is this little arrow, save and close. And that's what we want. We want to save it and close it so we can go on to other things. Now you'll notice with that invoice that we couldn't change the invoice number. And if you notice that, if you realize, no, I need to put a specific invoice number, or I have a certain system that I use for my business, that is fine. You can change that. There's a setting over here. So if you notice you weren't able to actually type in the invoice number you needed, you can come over to here to the gear in the top right and come over to account and settings in the first column. And usually it takes a second to load, but once it does, you're going to, let's try that again. Okay, there we go. Okay, so then you'll see sales in the left, on the left menu. So if you click sales, and notice custom transaction numbers is off. We don't want that. So we'll just click, you can either click this whole section, it'll open it up, or you can click this pencil, either way. All right, so custom transaction numbers, we're going to switch it on so that it's green. And while you're here, if there's any other settings, if you always do net to terms, it's always a certain net, or it's always due on receipt, you can just change that setting here. So that way you don't have to change it every time if you always do it the same way. So we'll come back in another video to all these settings, but while we're here, I just thought I'd throw that in. All right, so here we've got custom transaction numbers. We turn it on, save. All right, so now custom transaction numbers is on. We want that. We are done. We'll come over here, done in the corner. All right, so now let's go look at the invoice that we made. We're going to go back to sales on the menu. And you've got a nice little overview graph. You don't have to, don't feel like you need to come here constantly. You can, but not everyone really uses this. But you absolutely can't. This is another shortcut and yet another place to create an invoice. So this can be helpful, but you've also got reports. You've got your profit and loss. You've got all the reports over on the reports menu. So if you're just too busy, you don't feel like you will remember to keep up with this, don't feel like you need to, unless you like it. Okay, so we'll come over here to all sales. Excuse me. This is what we want, all sales, and here's our invoice. So here we've got October 5th, invoice 1038, the one that they automatically created that number to Tom Roberts for 500. So I want to change this. I don't like that invoice. I want it to be something different. So let's click the invoice, and you just click anywhere in the row to open it. And now we're back into the invoice of what we made. But now notice this was not here before. So now we have this box, and now you can change it. You can use letters, you can use numbers. So whatever your system is, you can do whatever you would like to do, you can do that, and then it will count on. So the next time you make an invoice, so let's say I do 2202 for this invoice, the next time you make an invoice, it'll enter it as 2203. So it'll just keep counting on for you. So you don't have to remember, oh, what was the last invoice number that I made? It will continue to just add on the next number. Okay, so we'll go ahead and save this, and now it does say save and close. So QuickBooks realized, okay, you want to save and close normally. We'll put that button there instead. So now we can just go straight to save and close. And now notice we're in the all sales tab of the sales menu. So we're in sales and then all sales. So that's how we got here. But the first row is the most recent. And there we are. And now notice it changed our invoice number. So that's what we want. Okay, so now let's say it's a couple days later. And now Tom Roberts is a great customer. He has paid us on time. And we want to record that we've received the payment for this invoice. Okay, so let's do that. Now, right now it says it's an open invoice. Notice if it goes past the due date and it has not been paid, or the whole balance has not been paid, then it will say overdue in orange. So notice the difference here. For us, it's open because the due date has not arrived yet. So now we will receive our payments. Okay, so now we clicked receive payment, and now we're in the receive payment screen. So here, what we're going to do is we're going to say the payment date, so the date that you received payment. So we're going to select the date that you received payment. Let's say that that was on the 7th. And now you don't have to enter this. If you just, if you feel like you don't really have the time to enter in every single box, then you could save time here by skipping this if you need to, but the more information, the better. So especially if it was a check, putting the check number, that's always a great idea. But if it was by credit card or everybody always pays the same, all your customers, they all pay by credit card. That is something that this is not required. In other words, it's not required, but it is good to have more information. Okay, so let's say that's the check number. We put the check number here. All right, and this box right here, this is going to be another topic of another video, but if you use the bank feed where you have your bank account connected and it will download the transactions for you, if you use that feature, then leave this here, undeposited funds. Leave that there. It's just going to hold it in this category until we can get back to the bank feed and match it over there in the bank feed. So there's another step if you've got that bank feed, if you've got your accounts connected over there. So again, that's another topic, another video. If you use that feature, then you'll want to do that. If you don't have any accounts connected, then you can just select your checking or whatever the account that you put the money into, then you can just put it straight in there. But if you use the bank feed, then make sure that this says undeposited funds. Okay, so now we come over to the right side and we're going to say amount received. But let's say that Tom only paid you $250. He didn't pay the whole $500. And you already agreed with that. You already knew ahead of time he was going to pay it in two amounts. He's going to pay half and half. So that's where you'll change it. You'll say, okay, QuickBooks, Tom only paid me $250 for this invoice. That's no problem, and you can just put it there. And notice the large number, make sure that that says the amount that you want it to say. Okay, so that's correct. He did pay only just $250. And you might see multiple rows of invoices. So that's where you just want to make sure that the one that they checked is the correct one. And it is because you clicked receive payment. So you chose to receive payment on that invoice, so they knew this is the invoice that you're paying. So you just make sure that the correct invoice is the one that's checked off. It's this October 5th C2202. That's right. The original amount is $500 for $250. Okay, so here we are. We're done. There's save and new just means if you're going to do another receive payment. So that would be for save and new, but we want to save and close. All right, save and close. So now let's see what that looks like. Here it is. So here's our invoice. Here, our total is $500. The balance is $250. It's been partially paid. And notice a new row has entered. A new row has been created for the payment itself. So QuickBooks will put a separate row for the payment. So here's the invoice and here's the payment for that invoice. And the number, that was the check number. So here we can see it right from the table. Still Tom Roberts. If we entered anything in the memo, we could see it here. And here it was just $250 and this payment is closed. We made it, we created it. Okay, so let's do that again. Now let's say it's a couple days later. Tom has now paid us the remaining balance of his invoice. So we'll come back to the invoice. Either you can click into it or you can just click receive payment. So notice we're not clicking the payment part, we're clicking the invoice part. So here we've got the invoice, receive payments, and this amount received is $250, and a little later he paid it, and this was by another check. All right, so now we'll just double check everything, make sure it all looks good. It goes into undeposited funds because we use the bank feed. Again, if you don't use the bank feed, then just select the account that you deposited the money into. All right, so now we're going to save and close because it all looks good. All right, so now let's see what happened. So now let's look back at our invoice row. Now, $500 of the total, zero balance. It is now green paid. And he made 2 payments on that invoice. So that's where we have 2 rows. Payments for check number 1025 for $250 and payment check number 1026. And we selected the dates that we received the payment. Okay, so that's what it looks like here. And you'll notice that it shows 500, negative 250, negative 250. So the payment rows will be negative. The invoice amounts will be positive. All right, so that is it for creating an invoice and for receiving payments or partial payments to that. So again, if you use the bank feed, that will be another video for that final step for you. But if you don't, then really you're done. That's it. That was the last step. All right, so I hope that was helpful. And if you have any questions, let me know, and I will see you on the next video. Bye.